Well, good Monday afternoon, Living Water Church. We just went through the crucifixion of Jesus Christ yesterday in church, and just a powerful message that we got to hear out of the Word of God. And what a tremendous blessing that He's preserved that for us year after year after year, that over the course of 2,000 years, that word has been preserved for us this day, that we might read it, we might understand it, we might take it and bind it to our lives and understand the great mercy and the great grace and the great love that our God has for us, that He would send His only begotten Son to die on a cross in such a way. And I know if you're like me at all, this was just an incredibly hard message to prep for me to do yesterday, because so often I'm reading this text and I'm studying down this material, and it's hitting me harder and harder and over, just the vast love that our God has for us, that He would willingly go to the cross, that He would willingly be scourged, that He would willingly go and allow Himself to be hanged on that cross and ultimately give up His own life for you and for me. It's an incredible act of love that we can't begin to fathom, but yet we can praise Him for it. And what we saw just a piece of yesterday is this kind of coexistence between this prophecy of Psalm 22 and the actual action of the cross. And only with God, this is what I really want to drive home right now, is only with God can something like this happen. If you wrote a text 1,000 years earlier and you said this text is going to come to be 1,000 years in the future, how could you possibly predict with such accuracy the events that we're going to have? Even if you went back and looked at the text and you thought, I'll reconstruct this so it looks like the text, that would not even be possible. How could you be hanging on a cross and you could look down at the Roman guards and you could beg them to divide your garments up, to cast lots for your one-piece undergarment? How could you make that happen? How could you sanction that none of your bones would be broken while you are being beaten and tortured? How could you sanction that in this passage we would see the mockers standing around, them scourging and scorning Jesus Christ, the things that would go on? And as we read in Psalm 22, we see these great parallels that just are only possible, only can come to be if you are indeed God. My God, why have you forsaken me, is how that passage in Psalm 22 opens, and such a prevalent understanding of Jesus Christ, that He was there fulfilling and ministering to those people while fulfilling the messianic prophecies that were laid before us. But in Psalm 22, verse 7, it says, "All who see me mock me, and they make mouths at me, and they wag their heads." And in Mark, he clarifies that people were passing by and they're mocking Him and wagging their heads at Him. Same exact phrasing there. In verse 8, it says, "He trusts in the Lord, let Him deliver him, let Him rescue him, for He delights in him." And this seems like an affirmation of King David that he's writing, let Him deliver him. But what we see in contrast is in Mark and Matthew and Luke and John, we see that people are deriding Jesus and mocking Him while He's hanging on the cross and saying he trusts in God, let Him deliver him. If He's God Himself, let Him take Himself down off of the cross. And they use this as a form of mockery. And in verse 14 it says, "I am poured out like water, all my bones are out of joint, my heart is like wax, it is melted within my breast. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, my tongue sticks to my jaws, you lay me in the dust of death." Those are great and active descriptions of a cross and the happenings on a cross. It says, my heart is melted like wax. That's a peritonisis. It's an actual thing that happens when you're in under great stress and under great pain, where your heart actually can become so overworked that it actually starts to bleed out. And there's a sac around your heart that fills up with water, and it starts to compress and constrain and choke out your life force from within your chest. The same exact thing, pericarditis, can happen around your lungs. A fluid-filled sac can develop around your lungs that fills up with water and starts to make it very difficult to breathe. This is a real scientific thing that happens to those that are under great pain and under great stress. And the feeling is that of your heart melting within you. My heart is melted like wax within my breast. All my bones are out of joint. This is a very real thing that would have happened while none of Jesus's bones were broken. Indeed, many of them probably would have been out of joint from the great beating and torment He took, from the pulling the heavy crossbeam along, from Him being hoisted up by His arms onto the cross, from Him having to strain against the downward force of gravity to hold Himself up and push Himself up. Most likely His shoulders and other joints were elongated and pulled out of joint. The feeling is just of tremendous agony. My strength is dried up like a potsherd. Of course, you have no strength left. You've been up all night long, Jesus. You've been beaten and mocked, and you've been on false trials all night long, and now you are hanging on the cross after hours of no food and drink and sleep, and all of your blood is poured out and seeped out on the ground. You are without strength. All, indeed, of your strength is dried up. My tongue sticks to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of death. His tongue sticks to his jaws because he's thirsting, and he's also has tremendous blood loss. He is so incredibly thirsty at this moment in time. That would be a proven fact. And he says the very statement from his lips. He says, "I thirst." Indeed, it must have been a powerful thirst that Jesus must have been experiencing on the cross. For dogs encompass me. Guys, in Jewish culture and custom, dogs are Gentiles. Dogs were anyone who was outside of the Jewish faith. And indeed, they are encompassing him, all around him. There says a battalion of Roman guards were present around him. A company of evildoers encircles me. Everyone who wanted Jesus arrested was an evildoer. That's what they were. They were all around him. They were encompassing him. They were circling him. They have pierced my hands and my feet. You can't get more descriptive than that. And now there's some nuances to this passage that say that maybe it was crushing of the hands and feet, but regardless, in the translation, it's a very clear descriptor and depictor of what is going on with the destruction of your hands and your feet on the cross. They stare and gloat over me. Indeed, they were doing that. I can count all of my bones. The great loss of water and blood within your body leaves your bones in stark relief, where your skin literally doesn't look right anymore, and you can see your bones in stark relief. That's why most of the depictions of Jesus, you can see his entire rib cage and those things, because that's really what it would have looked like while hanging on the cross. You can count and see all of his bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my garments amongst themselves. The gospel writers give us a great account of this is going on with the Roman guards. They're dividing the garments, and they're casting lots for Jesus' one-piece undergarment because they don't want to rip it or divide it. But you, O Lord, will not be far off. Indeed, the Lord is never far off from his chosen one. They are in great and complete and countless, utter eternal unity for all time. The Lord is indeed never far off from his chosen one. So those are the things that are happening on the cross. And we could go on and unpack more of Psalm 22 about this great messianic prophecy. But the best part, the really powerful part about this prophecy and this psalm is what comes right at the end of the psalm, guys. Because in the very end of the psalm, this is something the Jewish people would not have liked or understood. But what it says is, all the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord. Well, the Jewish people thought the Lord was for them. The Jewish people thought they were God's inheritance, that they were the sons of Abraham, and they were the ones that were for the Lord. And what David's writing here, and what comes to be a messianic prophecy, is all the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord because of this action on the cross. All the families of the nations shall worship before you, for kingship belongs to the Lord, and he rules over all the nations. Indeed, Jesus Christ has come, and he is king. He is reigning supreme. It says, all the prosperous of the earth eat and worship before him. They shall all bow down, even those that go down to the dust. Where have we read about that? But in the New Testament, when it explains that all, one day, every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall confess that Jesus is Lord. And that includes those that have perished from this earth, those that are waiting for judgment, those that are waiting for that final day. All shall confess Jesus as Lord, even those that have gone down to the dust. And it says, even the one who could not keep himself alive, it says that that person will indeed eat and worship. They will understand. It says, posterity shall serve him. It shall be told of the Lord to the coming generation. They shall come and proclaim his righteousness to a people yet unborn. What are they going to proclaim? Psalm 22 ends with that. It says they will proclaim he has done it. And it says that will go on to the further generations. It will go out to those that are not even born yet. So guys, go back and read through Psalm 22. Go back and read through the Synoptic Gospels, and you're going to see this great messianic prophecy that only God could fulfill. There's no possible way that the details of the cross could have been handled so perfectly by one unless he was indeed the Son of God. How perfect is that to see? How awesome is it to see the God that we serve, the power that he unleashes here in this world, the power of prophecy, the power of just his being, the power of his name, the power of his saving word, and the gospel that is presented to us. So guys, that is such a powerful message, and I pray that you would go back and read Psalm 22, read the passage in Mark that we've been talking about in the other gospels, and just see the power of God at work through that prophetic message and through the work that Jesus did on the cross. So that being said, guys, we have just I have one quick announcement for you. But I want you to get all the details of this. So coming up is the CareNet annual fundraising banquet. If you don't know what CareNet is, guys, it's a crisis pregnancy center. It ministers to women who find themselves pregnant or with a young child in their midst and don't know where else to go. They minister not only items and necessities and needs, but they minister in classes, they minister in counseling support, and they minister the gospel to these women who are in desperate need of that. So what I would ask, guys, is this is a local ministry right down the road from us, right in Poughkeepsie, and we here at the church are pro-life. We are going to support life here at this church. We're going to support the gift that God has given to us in life. It says in Psalms that he has knit us together in our mother's womb, and this is just a powerful thing that we have here in this place, that we can understand that all life is sacred, all life is sanctioned by God, all life God in his sovereign wisdom has made, and this year the CareNet team has decided to make this kind of themed mode go for CareNet for the banquet that they're going to have this year. And it's called A God Who Sees Me. And they take a verse from Genesis chapter 16 where Abram is not trusting in the promise that God has given to him in that he will have many offspring. So he takes his wife's servant girl and he takes her and has a son with her. And now when this son happens, his wife is not trusting God. He's not trusting God. And so God, the wife, Sarai, takes Abraham and says, just take my servant and you can have a child with her. And will help God along. So what we would see here is this whole action is just awful. It's a lack of trust in God. But what we see come out of this situation is something that is powerful. And I see why the CareNet team has picked this verse out. And what we see here is that when the servant finds out that she is with child, that Sarai becomes mad. She becomes enraged, even though she suggested it to Abraham. And Sarai is now fleeing out from the midst of Abram's encampment. And she is sitting out and thinking, I might die here. I'm estranged. I'm out. And all I did was submit to my master. And in that moment, the Lord sees her. In that moment, the Lord finds her. And if you read in Genesis chapter 16, you're going to see a powerful statement that she makes. And she says in Genesis chapter 16 that the Lord indeed saw her. And I'll read that verse to you real quick because it is a powerful verse. And even in Ishmael's life, which is the son that was to be born out of disunity, out of promise of God, God indeed was going to bring forth offspring for Abraham, but they didn't trust him. But even in that non-trust, God had a sovereign purpose. And as we see this servant Hagar come and she gives birth to a son, Jesus finds her out in the wilderness and he says to him, "You are a God of seeing." For she said, "Truly here I have seen him who looks after me." So this is after she calls on the name of the Lord. She has nowhere else to turn. And God makes her a promise that he will indeed make her offspring great. And now this is a promise of God for this son who was conceived out of the holy relationship between Abram and Sarah. This is a son that was conceived where everyone was mad right away. This is a son that was conceived, but yet God still has purpose in it. And we can trust in that every life that is conceived, God has purpose in it. What a promise. So, guys, we can support this ministry. We can support what they're doing. We can support the gospel outreach for this. And we're going to do that by having this CareNet annual fundraising banquet here at the church. This is going to be happening coming up on the 21st of April at 6:30 p.m. So that's the sequence right now. 21st of April, 6:30 p.m. Hit it in your calendars right now. And there's going to be a description in the link below. We need an RSVP for this event. So it is a no-charge event. There is no charge to come to this event. We're going to have appetizers and dinner starting at 6:30. And then we're going to have a virtual speaker that is going to give the keynote address here for the CareNet banquet starting at 7:30. So please come out 6:30. It's going to be a formal event, so wear something nice. And guys, it is a fundraising event. So yes, there is no charge for the dinner, but we do ask that you come ready to give to CareNet for the ministry that they're doing, for the work of gospel presentation, for the work of care, the hands and feet that they are being to those ladies in Poughkeepsie who desperately need someone to love them in a time of trial. So guys, come out on the 21st at 6:30 p.m. RSVP. We're going to have childcare going on. So if you have kids, you can come and hang out, and we're going to have childcare upstairs. So in the RSVP, you're going to notice that it's how many adults and how many kids are coming. So that way we can get a head count on that and provide food for that. We need an RSVP by the 17th. So if you are going to attend, please get on the link and attend and RSVP, or we will not be able to have you here because we are going to order food on the 18th. So we need an RSVP by the 17th if you want to attend that event. We are going to hear from a keynote speaker, and it's a guy who actually works in apologetics for the sanctity of life, for the sanctity of human life. So I'm excited to hear him, and I pray that you guys will pray about coming out to that event and pray about what the Lord would lay on your heart to give to an organization that is serving him. So guys, get it in your calendars. If you have any questions, I'm going to put Sarah Harding's number in the description below. She is our liaison for CareNet, and she can answer any and all questions that you guys have about the CareNet annual fundraising banquet. So I pray you guys have a blessed week. If you need anything at all, my number's in the description below, and I can't wait to see you Sunday.